today here as the Rotary Club of Lawrence. Be with us, bless this food to our bodies and us to your service. And be with us as we get more ideas of club development, club membership development, and growth. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't see any guests today. So thank you all for being here. Daniel, will you do Happy Bucks?
I will be happy to do that. I'm going to start us off going first. I've got $2 I'm going to put in here. I am happy that Truett is now here and Will is graduated to becoming a daddy. That's awesome. And I've got another one for another man who went from being a daddy to a granddaddy. Harlan Grace, is that right? Holland Grace. Holland Grace is now with us.
I'm extremely happy, and this is all I got in the wallet, but thankful for Miss Holland Grace who arrived yesterday afternoon at 2:16 p.m.
Give that man a cowbell.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very good.
Holland Grace, all right.
Very good.
Sherry Turnover.
Yeah, I'm glad I've just got one thing to put in here.
Me too, I am too.
Don't have a dollar.
How about you, Mike?
Good for the good weather.
The good weather. What are you happy about?
Happy to be here.
Me too. How about you?
I'm happy that we've obviously cleared up the Civil War with the Lions Club.
What are you happy about?
The good thing.
I'm happy to be here today.
Happy the high school football will be kicking off and the touchdown club will be starting in a couple weeks.
Awesome.
I'm happy that we've started school, everything's going well, and one thing on that twice.
Okay, only twice. That's good.
I'm happy that this is my kid's first year in public school.
Yeah, all right.
I'm happy to be a dad.
You are happy. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm happy. On September 10th, we're going to do a kayak trip with Rotary, hopefully. Friday, September 10th. So
You're happy about that.
Let me buy, man.
I'm happy the Braves are now leading the NL East.
Braves are now leading the NL East. Ray, what are you happy about? Thank you.
I'm happy because I think you and our minister Tiffany met earlier in the school.
Well, you did. That's right. She seems like an awesome person. What are you happy about?
Well, I hope it's not a blessing.
Always happy not to find a name in the obituary. That's a good thing to be happy about. Jim, what you happy about? Yes, I'm happy school started too. What you happy about that?
I'm happy that the storm passed us by without a whole lot of damage. Not passed us by, we did get a lot of damage.
That's right. Thank you, Doc. Good to see you. How about you, Jim? Pretty well. We saved the best looking guys in here for last.
These three what? Just over there. I'm just happy to be here. Happy to be alive in the midst of the world there.
That's right. What do you have to
Happy to be safe sitting beside the line.
I'm happy that I got my first session of teaching out of the way right before meeting. Even though it may be late for my board meeting.
That's all right. That's all right. Rotarians, what does this go to do?
Good in the world. Thank you so much, Daniel. Hey, Daniel, do you mind ringing that cowbell for us just one more time for the grandbaby? Thank y'all so much for participating and, as always, for donating to the Cart and Happy Bucks bucket both before and after the meeting. As Robbie mentioned, on September the 10th, these are announcements. September the 10th, we're going to do a kayaking trip. If you're interested, please see him. We are also going to do a meal like we did before with Ray cooking and us selling tickets on September the 17th. That's a Friday. So if you'll kind of pencil that in on your phones or type it in on your calendar, then you'll have that down. We will have tickets for that hopefully next week, right, Michael?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. And also, don't forget, duck race is coming up on October the 7th. The 2nd. Jonathan didn't even correct me. Sorry.
I was taking notes about others.
Oh, okay. On October the 2nd, we'll have duck race at Squeal on the Square. Does anyone else have any announcements? Yes, Edie.
We start backpacking on September the 3rd. And Jim and Phil are gonna open the day before, and we need packers on the Fridays. Thank you. I'll get that, but I contacted the school and that was their choice of when to start.
Okay. So backpack will start on September the 3rd. Edie will get in touch with those of you who are willing to come help with that. It's always a great opportunity to be able to change lives throughout our community. It does count as a makeup. Yes. Yes. You can.
On the duck race, what?
You can Barrett Holmes right there.
Way to go, Barrett. Way to go, Scott.
All right. Amber, Scott, Chris, Barrett volunteered?
Yes. I got him on his grabbing his place.
Awesome, thank you. Appreciate it, Barrett. I'll put that.
Hey, you want to play me volunteer?
I'll put Barrett down in ink. That way we don't.
And Michael, we will be, not just yet, but within the next few weeks on those tickets too.
Whenever you need
We
them.
have to get the sponsors for that.
Okay. The board met today. We've received several grants. Some of those in hand, some in process of being in hand towards backpack. So very thankful for those who put in those applications so that we can continue giving out 50 children food each week. Because without those, we would either have to do a whole lot more fundraising or we'd have to cut how many students we serve. So thank you for those and the people in the community who give to those grants. We also talked about having committees in regards to backpack and scholarship, in regards to the Rotary scholarship and just how that's handled. Backpack is going to be Jim Yarborough, Robbie Owens, Robbie Hill, and Edie. Scholarship is going to be Daniel Effley, Heath Copeland, Patty Crane, a District 55 representative when we work out the corporate membership with them and who exactly that's going to be, as well as Edie. Anything else that I missed, board? No. Not specifically detailed. No. Okay. All right. Thank y'all so much for coming early and bearing with me those few minutes afterwards. Oh yes. We're working on doing a gift for some first year teachers in the district, so that will be forthcoming. Hopefully you'll kind of see some of that on Facebook and or we actually introduce it too. So, all right. Emma, are you ready? Emma, if you will allow us to hear from a lion, that would be great, as long as he finishes eating before he gets up here.
You don't want a hungry lion.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was calling and hearing the other day to say, well, what's the theme of the programs for the month of August? And she said, club development, membership in club development. I thought, that doesn't suit the person I was thinking about. Who do I know that would be good to talk with about that? And then I remembered meeting Bob Corlew, who is the former president of Lions International. So I'm thinking he should know something about club development, club membership. He was the 100th president of Lions International, like 2016 to 2017. He was also the 50th president of the Tennessee JCs. He's had some experience at something other than life. He is a graduate of St. Mary's University School of Law, and I wrote it down, must be 77. I did a typo on that day, where he also was executive editor of the Law Journal. And I attended the Capitol Page School back in 68, 69. He served as a judge in the General Sessions probated county courts in Tennessee from 84 to 90. was chancellor for the state of Tennessee from 1990 to 2014, where he served as judge of the equity and circuit courts, the highest trial courts in the state. Also, for a while, he also would fill in or serve as a special judge in the Court of Appeals on special panels of the Tennessee Supreme Court. So don't do anything illegal. You probably don't know what to do about it. In addition, from 2000 until 2014, Bob taught courses in remedies, secure transactions, and negotiable instruments as a professor for the National School of Law. Unfortunately, Alan Wham said he wasn't going to be able to make it today, so he won't be able to take advantage of some of that information. But he also, Bob, did serve as an adjunct professor of aerospace, teaching graduate students and undergraduates at Middle State University. So there's somebody to talk with there. Bob was author of a 1,500-page book used by judges and attorneys while conducting jury trials in the court system of Tennessee. He is also had tenure in the United States Army that included serving as a lieutenant on active duty, later as a chaplain and captain, and a major in the reserves and National Guard. And while his resume doesn't mention this, I find it interesting, at least for a few years. Bob was owner of a radio station licensed to Murfreesboro outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And I learned this a while ago. He actually worked for one of the other stations there, during high school. That's how a lot of us got trapped in radio. He was able to escape. But then after retirement from the courts, he moved to upstate South Carolina and settled in the beautiful little community of Rotary, just over the river from Lawrence County. And a few years back, purchased WQUL radio in Woodward, 1510 AM, and 1017 FM plus at WQUL.FM. Plug one of our fellow broadcasters here in the upstate. But I think Bob's experience, particularly in Lions Club, might be able to shed some light on some ideas for us that we might have not thought about as Rotarians. And so we'll try to learn from a lion this morning. Please welcome Bob Corlew.
Thank you so very much. Such a joy for me to have the privilege of being here with you today. Thank you so much for your very warm welcome. I'm so happy to see everyone here and to see the great organization, Mr. President, that you have for your club. You know, I'm not a member of any organized service group. I'm a Lion. We have the privilege of serving, and we serve together with you. As Emil mentioned, I got to be president of Lions International during the 2016-2017 year, and John Germ was the president of Rotary. I don't know if you all remember that year. That's been a while ago, but John Germ and I, interestingly, had been friends years before in the Tennessee JCs. I was from the Nashville area. John was from Chattanooga, the Chattanooga choo-choo and all of that good stuff. Well, John was from down there in Chattanooga, and he and I had talked a while before when we were kind of coming up the ranks, John in Rotary and I in Lions. And I told John, I said, John, I'm working. I said, things may work out for me to be president of Lions. John said, yes. I may have the same good fortune for Rotary. Well, we talked along, and about the time things looked like they were falling into place, and to be real fair, the election process for Rotary and for Lions is a little bit different. But I knew about 3 years before I became president that it was pretty well going to fall into line. So I contacted John and said, hey, I'm going to be president of Lions. I said, yeah, you ought to transfer your membership over, be a Lion. And he said, yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to work out for me. He said things have kind of fallen by the wayside. Well, we didn't talk leadership in our organizations then for a while, and then when I was elected president, of course, I sent an email to John and said, John, it really happened. I just became president of Lions International. And John wrote me back and said, well, you're not going to believe this, but it's worked out for me too. We'll serve together the same year. And it was really a privilege to be able to do that.
there are some times, I guess really just one time, the service leaders, the international leaders from Rotary, from Lions, from Kiwanis, and there's one more, and I can't recall now which of those it was, but we were all together at the Rose Bowl. We were all invited to the Rose Bowl, had breakfast together, and of course, John and I knew each other, and we were meeting the other two, and he and I arranged a couple of times otherwise during our year. I remember one time we both arranged so that we were attending a leadership conference. I was representing Lions and he was representing Rotary, of course, in Dubai. And we had a great time there, learned a little bit, and had a great time catching up as families and so forth. Being president, international president of a service organization truly is a great honor. I will have to admit to you that during the year I served as president, I stayed on the road most of the time. And as Emil mentioned, and I apologize to you because I didn't realize I had left so much of that stuff in the introduction. John, Emil, you should have just marched through some of that, but I was the 100th president of Lions. Rotary got started a little before we did. Rotary was started by a lawyer. Lions was started by an insurance guy, so maybe we have that in common. Interestingly, they were both started in Chicago, and both Melvin Jones and Paul Harris. Melvin Jones is credited with founding Lions. It's kind of debated. There was another guy who was from Indiana who maybe did as much as Melvin Jones did to start Lions, but Melvin's credited as being the founder of Lions, and Paul Harris, of course, Rotary. Both of them are buried in the same cemetery in Chicago. They are buried about 100 yards apart. I've had the opportunity to be at the graves of both of those, and the year before I was president, I observed that the place where Paul Harris was laid to rest was quite an auspicious location. And the place where Melvin Jones was laid to rest was kind of forgotten. And we spent a little bit of money during the year I was president and kind of beefed up his burial spot. And it's they now are perhaps comparable to each other. One of the greater privileges I had actually as a vice president, coming up the ladder to be president of Lions, one of the greater privileges I had was to be invited to a conference in Mexico City and to represent the Lions. And there were two major groups that were there because we were commemorating the fact that in North America we had conquered a disease called onchocerciasis. And yes, I did stay up all night the night before learning how to pronounce that word so I could say it. But I got to be there and represent Lions, and the other organization that was there was the Carter Center, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, which of course was founded by the former president, Jimmy Carter. And while I was there representing the Lions, President Carter was there representing the Carter Center. So the two of us were there as the dignitaries, if you will. Of course, everybody knew Mr. Carter, nobody knew me, but we still had a great time and enjoyed. I do have a few, Emil told me that this was membership month, and I had some thoughts for membership. Maybe there's nothing really new or different from what I put together here, and I put together a little, thank you for doing that, sir. I put together a little handout just so you could go home today and say, yeah, I know what he talked about, and pull that out and say, because I remember when I was a youngster, I had a good friend who would always ask me whenever I would see him. He was very active in his church, And his first question to me always was, well, what did your preacher talk about at church on Sunday? Well, of course, the first time he asked me, and incidentally it was a Sunday afternoon, I had no idea, but I will promise you that after that, I made sure at least any time I was going to see him, that I paid attention at least enough to be able to tell what topic that the minister said. So
Praise God.
there you go. Yeah. I think that's what I said. I think that's what I said the first time. I said, what the preacher talked about the first in church Sunday, and I said, well, he talked about God. He talked about Jesus. What you talk about at your church? So I put together a few little ideas on membership, just to be honest with you. And I will go ahead and tell you that I think Rotary, and I'm not privileged to some of your numbers like I am with the Lions. Lions, and I was president, 5 years ago now, so a lot has happened since then. And I will brag for just a moment, if you will allow me, the year I got to be president, and it wasn't me. I had some folks who were helping me. Isn't that the way it always goes? If you have a good president of the United States, it's because he has a good cabinet, and if you have a president that's maybe not doing too good a job, it's because his advisors don't do too well. But yes, we had a lot of people that helped me, and membership was one of our focuses. Foci? Is there an English professor here? Foci? That was one of our foci. During the year I got to be president, we had the privilege of actually growing in Lions membership around the world to be bigger than we had ever been. My hope was to get up to be 1.5 million members. We didn't make that. Then my fallback position was 1,450,000, and we got within 7 members of that. I always figured somebody who was running the computer double-crossed me on that, because they could have withheld, they could have made that happen, I think. We got within 7 members of that number. Rotary's about the same size, and honestly, we both lost members since 2016, 2017. We admitted women in 1987, and we are about 40% women now and 60% men. In the United States, interestingly, when we were just men, we had about 600,000 U.S. Members who were men at the time. Now we're a little under 300,000, and we have men and women, so I'm not sure what's happened. I honestly feel like, and you folks here today are a fairly youthful group. Unfortunately, both Lions, Rotary, and Kiwanis is that fourth group. Yes, thank you. Kiwanis is the same way we are. We all are aging, and one of the foci, again, within Lions at least, is to look at new and more youthful members. To play devil's advocate, I oftentimes say, well, if you have somebody that's retired, that's looking for something to do to spend his time, are you going to tell him or her that you're not interested in recruiting them, that you want to find somebody who's 20 instead of somebody who's 65? Well, obviously, in my opinion, we need members of all types. The first key, I think, in membership, and Emil told me that it's a little like the church service that I had. That when I was a whole lot younger, we had a minister, and he told me he wanted to recruit me for the ministry. And one of the tales he told me was in a former church where he had been. He said there was a gentleman that sat 5 rows from the back, and he always sat in that same seat, sat in the pew every Sunday. And church was from 11 to 12, and he said every Sunday at 11:55, this was back when church was very formal, and nowadays I know people wear shorts and churches, I'll just say that, church is a lot different now. But back then it was real formal. And this gentleman would make a big proceeding out of at 11:55 every morning, assuming the minister was still preaching, which he usually was. He said this gentleman would raise his hand just like this. And I wasn't smart enough to figure that one out, but the minister told me, he said, well, that was signal to me that I had 5 minutes. And I said, I asked him, I said, well, what happened at 12 noon? He said, well, I was just getting to that. He said at 12 noon, without saying anything to anybody, he looked to the right, he looked to the left, he stood up, and he exited the building just like Elvis. You know, he left the building. So anyway, we are all looking to gain members, and we all want to leave at a little before 2 o'clock because I know you will leave at that time regardless, right? One of the key factors in gaining new members is first of all to consider your existing members. And that's the first bullet point that I have on my little sheet. When you are looking for new members to come into your club, the first thing you ought to look at, the first key, is to be sure that your new members in fact are compatible with your existing members. And I have a couple of stories, I guess, and you probably know of some as well as I do, where new members have come into a club and for whatever reason the new members are combative rather than compatible, and some of the strong older members decide to leave. And in one situation that I'm remembering, they went out and started their own club. Again, maybe something like some of the churches back in Nashville, you know, they'll do that too. But be sure that your new members, in fact, are ones that, even if you don't know them, they're people that you like or that you think would be a good fit within your club. You want to, of course, look for movers and shakers within your community. Again, people are people. Each person who is a good member, it doesn't matter whether he or she is one who influences others or not. But to be fair, when you have someone who is a mover and a shaker, that person perhaps can help you maybe a little more than an ordinary guy like me. Your movers and shakers can help you when you're starting to work on a project. Your movers and shakers can help you when you're receiving contributions. Your movers and shakers can help you when you're in the process of trying to recruit new members, simply because they know more people and they can help you even more. Similarly, you do want to look for people who are respected in the community and respected by the members of your club. And you may say, well, those two kind of sound like saying the same thing twice, but I'll say to you that's not really true. We had a situation where we had a city official who was very well respected, if you will, or who was respected within the community, but he was very controversial. And there were a number of people who within the club said, you know, just don't think we ought to invite him to come in and be a part of our club. Similarly, I remember one gentleman who my club was thinking about inviting to come join, and he was a very likable person, but he was one that had trouble getting all his bills paid, and that was probably a issue within the community, and they felt that if we invited him to be a part of the Lions Club, that might not be a good fit for the club. Of course, you want to find someone who is going to come in and really take hold and be active as a member of the club. Yes, if you have a member who comes in who wants to put his name on your roster, maybe that is a good thing, even if he doesn't participate. But obviously, You want people who are going to help with your projects and make financial contributions when the club is helping for a worthy cause. And you want people who will be there at your meetings to help you consume the delicious meal that you have. And again, thank you for lunch. It was very delicious, and I know we all enjoyed the lunch. We appreciate it. The people then who will help you within the club are much better than those who will just come in and put their name on the roster. There was a time when we had an issue in our little club where we had more than one person who wanted to be a member about 9 months before the election, before the local election. And of course they ended up, believe it or not, being a candidate on the ballot. And they were very active and did great work as Lions members until the day after the election, and then you couldn't find them. I will tell you that most recently in my little club in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. Anybody ever heard of Mount Juliet? Where'd you hear Mount Juliet?
I go to Nashville periodically.
Okay.
I have a friend that lives there.
I got you. Well, I lived there till I was down here, and Charlie Daniels, who many of you know, was one of my neighbors. And in fact, when I was president of Lions, Charlie came up to Chicago. That was where we had our international convention. And Charlie performed for us. He and his band performed for us one day. And of course, we lost Charlie last October, I believe it was. He passed away. We also, our convention in Chicago, which was a big celebration, we had a band called the Beach Boys who were there. And they played for us one night, and I didn't ask for this privilege, and I still think they gave me a dead mic, but I was invited to come up and sing with them. So I tell people that yes, one of my claims to fame is that, yeah, I used to sing with the Beach Boys. So I sang with the Beach Boys. We also had Chicago there, and the Beach Boys performed first. And I think I saw some of the Beach Boys talking to some of the members in Chicago, and I think some of the Beach Boys told the guys in Chicago, don't invite him up on stage. He can't sing. So I didn't get to go up with Chicago. But at any rate, going to an international convention, or the fact that your organization is international in scope, is another factor that I think appeals to some folks when you're talking to them about new members. So you want people who will work on the projects. You want people who will give money when you're raising money for a good purpose, and you want people who have demonstrated leadership potential, if you will. Why? Because if Rotary is like Lions, we're always looking for good officers, and honestly twisting arms to get people to serve as president and serve as district governor, and on up the ladder. So you do want people who have demonstrated leadership potential. It would be great if you had someone who had an interest in working with high school and with college age young people. I know Rotary, like Lions, has a high school arm and an arm at college. And of course, if you have someone who works well with younger people and with college students, and you can twist their arms and get them to come in and help with the Interact, and what do you call the Rotaract? Yeah, help them to get them to come in and assist in those positions as well. Also, if you have people who are in key positions in your community, they certainly can further the opportunity within the club. I remember when I was a very young Lion, and actually I was still more active in the JC's organization, the mayor in the little town of Murfreesboro, the mayor was a Lion. And sure enough, the city of Murfreesboro put in this was back in 1976, the commemoration of the 1776, and the city put in a little pioneer community. And they had a little pathway leading to that community that was barren, that was bare. And they needed some log cabins built. So the mayor, who was a member of the Lions Club, said, well, I think I know a group that would be interested in building a log cabin there on that entryway if they got the privilege of using that building. Well, city council thought that was a great idea, so sure enough, the Lions built their Lions clubhouse at the entryway to Cannonsburg. Well, I was local president for the JCs that year, and the mayor was in Lions Club, I was in Lions, so I went and talked to the mayor, and I said, you know, you probably need another log cabin over there, don't you? He admitted that we did, and he looked at me and he said, you want to build a JC cabin, don't you? I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, there's plenty of land over there, so we did both of those. My point simply is this: he, as mayor, facilitated that, made it happen, and yes, it helped the Lions, yes, it helped the JCs, but it helped the city, because no longer was that little pathway bare, but in fact, it was the buildings we built were, the architecture was dictated by the city, and the city actually owned the land on which the buildings were built, and it was a positive thing for the city as well. If you can, recruit new members who themselves are happy to go out and recruit new members. And again, I used to say repeatedly that we didn't want just names. We didn't want just people to come in and be members. We wanted people who wanted to serve the communities. We wanted people who really wanted to make a difference in the community. So if you can find people who are interested in coming in and being members and interested in recruiting new members who in fact are interested in being a part of the community and helping to serve the community. If you have new members who are willing to come in, who perhaps have connections in other communities where there's not a Rotary Club, Woodruff, for example, does not have a Rotary Club currently. I know we did at one time, but there's not one now. A great opportunity, some good people up there. Also recruit those who are impressed by the existing members of the club. And I say that, in fact, I remember, maybe it's not as much true now as it used to be, but when the president of the bank was a member of the Lions Club or the Rotary Club, every young bank employee who had the vision to be a bank president one day wanted to be a member of that club where the bank president was. And the senior attorney in a law firm, whatever club he was in, when the new lawyers came to town, they thought it was a pretty good move to go in and join that club as well. I also have some key points, a couple of key points with existing members, and I think perhaps more important than recruiting new members to be a part of your club is the idea to make your current members feel that they are appreciated, to make sure that your current members are happy with the club, with the projects that the club is doing, and with what's going on within the club. Make sure that your existing members are pleased with the new members that you want to recruit. Involve your existing members in all of your activities of your club, including all of your projects and all of your meetings. And do your best to make the meetings interesting. Do your best not to have boring speakers like me. Do your best to have interesting speakers who will come, who will make the meetings interesting. Do your best to make the meetings interesting. The happy bucks Yeah, and I think that's kind of an idea in Rotary generally, or at least other Rotaries. And I will tell you, I'm an honorary Rotarian. When I was international president, a past president of Rotary, and it wasn't my friend John Durham, but another past president, when I came to visit in his community, actually in another country, he came and visited, and I didn't know what was going on, and neither did anybody else, but he kind of interrupted the dinner, but he came up and he introduced himself to the group that was there, and he said, I have a determination, I have a insignia, and he then presented me a Rotary pin and made me an honorary Rotarian, which I apprecited, and everyone else did. And I didn't have a special pin, but I quickly, I thought fast on my feet, grabbed the Lion's pin and made him an honorary Lion, and then took care of the paperwork and so forth later on. So make your meetings interesting. Make sure the location, the meeting time, meeting day of the week, and the food, of course. Real important. Make sure the food is satisfactory to everybody. And involve your present members in the recruitment of your new members. Just some ideas that I have since you're celebrating Membership Month. Membership obviously is key to us all. Since I've mentioned JC's a couple of times, it is a fact, and I'm not proud of it as a former JC, but JC's is an organization that you have to get out a microscope to find them now. There are very few JC's around. We used to be perhaps one of the more active organizations in most every community. The Junior Chamber of Commerce, we were called in some places. But the problem the JC's had, they failed to recruit members, they failed to recruit quality members, and you won't last long if in fact that's your situation. I encourage you to do your best to do everything you can to make your club all that it can be. To be very fair, every community around the country relies on people who are willing to come out and to do things without regard for self. Those who in fact will help others. Those who in fact will do things to help their communities. And whether it's the Rotary, whether it's the Lions, whether it's the Kiwanis, whether it's the Civitan, whatever the club may be, if your purpose is in fact to help your community, if you will do your very best to make your community a better place to live, the world in which we live is going to be better. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Do we have any questions?
Yes.
I noticed he said that he put Daniel what to do in choirs and things like that, because he can't sing. Well, the Lord said, make a joyful noise. He didn't say make a beautiful noise.
That's a great point, Dr. Brown. And I'm married to a choir director, and I can't sing a lick. Y'all see me up front trying to sing. Edie got me up front one time. And I do the same thing every Sunday. I make a joyful noise, so thank you. Anyone else?
Lion presidents each year got to have a theme. They don't do it anymore. I think it got too expensive, but we got to have a theme, and my theme my year was new mountains to climb. And I thought that was, we're all looking for new adventures, new excitement. And interestingly, the little corporation that owns the Woodruff radio station is now called New Mountains to Climb, LLC. I do have some of my pens. I'm not sure I've got enough to go around, but Mr. President, if I won't disturb you, I can pass a few of those around if anybody likes one.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Emil. And thank you, Bob, for your message and motivation and reminding us lions do good things too, right?
Yes, sir. if I may tell you too, John Durham and I we did some projects together internationally.
the ones that came after us didn't follow through, but our goal was to kind of marry them together.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. We will stand for our four-way test.
Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Our motto,
Service to less self.
serve and change lives, Rotarians.